Hi, and welcome to the Sauce Labs customer conversation. My name is Abigail Kurtzman, and I'm an associate product marketing manager with Sauce Labs. My guest today is Everett Carney, Chief Technology Officer for Byte Industries, a Los Angeles-based company that's revolutionizing the food industry with more than 30 food brands and 8 brand hubs, kitchens that are able to prepare food for any of the 30 brands. Byte's business model allows them to operate with the scale of 240 traditional restaurant storefronts at a small fraction of the infrastructure and overhead cost. Byte's main focus is cooking food to go or for delivery through any of the major delivery apps.
So thanks so much for joining me today, Everett. First off, can you please describe your role at Byte and kind of how your team fits into the company at large?
Yeah, so my team builds a lot of internal tools. We are responsible for creating the support and infrastructure for the company itself from a technology perspective.
In terms of what you guys are working on, what kind of testing solutions are you currently using and what have you used in the past?
We have pretty much only used Sauce Labs. In my career in the past, I've used all kinds of different automation tools, everything from browser testing to very custom tests written in C++ to test video games. With the restaurant industry, it's very different from the tech startup space. The processes involved in keeping an operational organization running are very different than an organization that would be built around doing agile sprints or any of the more traditional technology project management methodologies. And balancing that with the chaos of kitchens and food and people is it's exciting.
Do you mind speaking a little bit more towards maybe how the testing experience for something like Byte would be different, like you were saying, from like a traditional startup? What kind of testing needs might you guys have that might be a little bit different or use cases or anything like that?
Yeah, so one of the big things for us is testing adaptability. We might have a location that's got hours from 8 a.m. to 2 a.m., but suddenly we might have some supply chain issue, as is common right now because of the state of the world, or someone calls in sick and we can't open until 4 p.m. We need to have tests and the ability to monitor when we are dynamically modifying our stores or our menus. And that's been a big challenge for us is guaranteeing that we are open when we think we're open and closed when we think we're closed.
And when you decided to go with Sauce Labs, and I believe you guys are using AIQ as well,
Correct.
what challenges were you facing at that time that kind of pushed you to interact with this, or what were the challenges that you had at the time when you started using this solution?
Primarily, we needed to know that we are open when we think we're open. Right now, we've got an email notification system going, which is super cool. We've been working with the AIQ team to improve the modifiability of the tests. We manage something like 14 or 1500 storefronts across 4 platforms, and we're also building our own platform. It's just a lot. You can't manage it on a human level. You have to automate that.
Was there kind of a change in the experience of your employees once you kind of implemented something like this? Like, did this make your team's jobs easier? Were they able to focus on another aspect of the application because this was off their plate? How did this affect them?
So they hated it because it added more emails. It doesn't have anything to do with AIQ or Sauce Labs so much as that's the only way we have to consume the output because we need stuff in a centralized location. And for us as a company right now, email is that centralized location. I've talked with the guys at AIQ, and so we're going to shift over to a webhook model. But when I came in, there was no backend, a way to accommodate any of that like you might expect in a normal tech company. Now we have a rhythm in place and people do like it now because we can go back and we have an audit log. So we can say, yeah, we are open or we have been open. That's been huge because we've used that to track down some issues with some of the big delivery platforms. And we have our own record now, which has been extremely helpful. So while there's more email spam, it's worth it.
And it sounds like specifically that audit system has really given you guys the ability to dig into where those issues are, which I can imagine prior to having something like that, it was kind of a mad scramble to try to figure out what was specifically wrong.
Well, it was a lot of finger pointing because the platforms don't give you much information. To be fair, it's not really their job. They just are there to deliver food, and that's what they are focused on. It's kind of up to the restaurants to manage themselves and to make sure that they're alive when they say they're alive, and that's trickier than it should be.
And it sounds like other than the fact of you guys trying to make sure that those hours and keeping that up to date, was there any specific measurable like KPIs or anything that your team was looking to achieve with this? Or was there any kind of internal goals other than obviously troubleshooting the hours for the restaurants and things?
There are some things we'd like to do down the road in terms of testing our own products and whatnot. A lot of tech companies want to do, user flow testing or systems testing in various ways. Maybe they're testing their app or their website. A lot of our stuff is static. What we care about is that the data that is listed on third-party products is correct. That's what trips up, I think, just hospitality companies in general. Especially since we manage so many brands. I don't want to downplay how important it is to be able to check all of those things,
No, absolutely. And I think that the kind of not hardest part, but the harder part about having these conversations when there is kind of a new use case like this is trying to understand, what you guys can measure, which sometimes isn't always the point, right? It sounds like you guys had a direct goal and you're able to achieve it. So now that you've kind of got a rhythm down, like you're saying, you guys can kind of move into next steps of either testing your own things
Yeah.
or anything like that. So that's great to hear that you've kind of gotten your feet under you with that.
We are exploring some ways to leverage Sauce Labs for automating things that we basically just don't want to do. And there's simple tasks. A lot of the complication comes in because we have to aggregate so many data sources, and the platforms that we're using don't have APIs. So it's not like we can just go ask for the data. We need to fake a login. So rather than testing our own systems, we're actually sort of testing other people's systems and then taking the results of those tests and using it for our own logging and data collection.
Is there anything in particular that you would like to do moving forward? I know you've kind of talked about that you guys kind of figured out where you're at like next for Byte to Byte in terms of your vision as CTO, like in the next 6 months to a year. What would you like to see happen?
I'm building out an internal administrative dashboard. I want to hook everything into that. Just better logging for ourselves. It's a shift for me personally because a lot of my career has been very product oriented. So it's been very plannable and you work within the plan and then you have an output, right? But this is operational engineering, which is very different. It's fire and who's closest to the fire to be able to put it out. And there's no planning. You can't plan. Leveraging these kinds of automation tools and testing suites and things, and then building a way to quickly extend the systems that we use to monitor the results of those automations is way more important than a new product release. We don't live and die by our product releases. People need food. They come in, they get food. We live and die by making sure that we are doing what we think we're doing. And it's a big shift.
Is there anything else that you think is important to kind of the story of Byte to Byte and Sauce Labs and AIQ that we kind of missed here? Or do you feel like that kind of experience that y'all have had has been represented?
Just want to give a thank you to the AIQ team. They've been extremely helpful, just helping us get up and running because we're so strapped for resources that we needed their help building things out. And so they had a great set of tests and helped us build our testing suite. They've all been very responsive, which has been great. I'm excited to do the next round of product development. I think there's a lot more we can do. I think that we need to get to a point on our end where we have some infrastructure in place that we can leverage. And once those two systems are talking to each other, I think it's going to be very powerful. One of the things that might be fun to tackle in the future is automating the response to a lot of the delivery platforms will check to see if you're open. They'll send you an email letting you know that they've paused a store, or they'll try to robocall you, or something will happen. And you've got automated systems on their end, plus you have drivers. And if the driver can't find your location, they get disgruntled and report you as closed, which might be fair, might not, case by case, right? But then the platform doesn't know any better and says that you're closed. And so, coming up with a solution that automatically goes back and says, no, we're actually open, that checks for those kinds of emails. That might be the next fun project to tackle.
I want to thank Everett for joining me today and sharing his experience with Sauce Labs. And be sure to visit saucelabs.com to learn more about live, automated, and continuous testing for web and mobile apps on the world's largest cloud-based test platform. Thanks for listening and happy testing.